Let's stay out west and talk about the LA Rams, the defending Super Bowl champions who went 16-5 last year, beating the Cincinnati Bengals in Super Bowl 56, 23-20. They went 10-11 against the number. Their over-under numbers, 10-10-1, so pretty even there. Their win total at BetMGM set at 10.5. Over is -105. Under is -115. They are 5-1 to win the NFC. To win the Super Bowl, they are 11-1. Those are the fourth best odds behind the Bills at 6-1, the Bucs at +750, and the Chiefs at 9-1. And then let's look at the division. And I know we both like the Rams to win the division, the NFC West. They are +120. The Niners right behind at 2-1. Then the Cards at 3-1, and the lowly Seattle Seahawks at 16-1. No team has repeated as a Super Bowl champion since Tommy Brady and the Patriots did it in 2003 and 2004, but the Rams are in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I think the best bet here is the Rams to win the division at plus money. It's still a good Rams team. I think the argument against them is that they have the most difficult schedule of anybody in the NFL, and that's usually the case. When you play in a Super Bowl, you're going to play in all those big-time games because that's kind of how it goes. It is very difficult, to repeat as Super Bowl champs. But looking at the rest of the division, they also have tough schedules too. The Cardinals have the second toughest schedule in the NFL, and the Niners have the fifth toughest schedule. So it's not like it's an easy schedule for some of their contenders in the division. No, I'm not talking about the Seahawks, but we don't need to. Let's not even go there. Looking at the Rams, here is a little refresher course in case you forgot. Here's who they lose from that Super Bowl winning team. Andrew Whitworth, who certainly was a key piece, the left tackle on the offensive line, he retired. Von Miller is now gone from that defense. Of course, he was the threat on opposing quarterbacks each and every day. Robert Woods is gone, even though he did play half the season. Odell Beckham Jr. has not been signed, but the core is still there. Cooper Kupp and Matt Stafford, probably the most dangerous quarterback-receiver duo, or at least the most prolific. Cooper Kupp won the Triple Crown last season. So Jalen Ramsey anchoring that secondary along with Aaron Donald, who returns to defend his title as Super Bowl champ. So I think this is still a good team. I just think the problem lies in the schedule being tough and the hated Super Bowl hangover that sometimes we see.
Yeah, that's the one real problem in the NFL is that it's just so hard to repeat because the NFL is just a hard row anyway. You always hear that in football coaches say, oh, it's hard to win in the NFL. It's hard to win every week. This is the NFL. But they are right. It's such a physical game. It's very competitive, and it is. And we've seen that because we haven't had a repeat champion in almost 20 years. But I think there's a strong possibility that the Rams could be even better on offense this year. Remember, Robert Woods, he was a guy who was a factor early on and then wasn't with the team in the second half of the season. OBJ could be back mid-year. He's unsigned but still recovering from that ACL injury that he suffered in the Super Bowl. But you have Cooper Kupp. Allen Robinson was a great signing from the Bears. Van Jefferson is a guy. I won some money on him last year. He would always be good for an over-under on a longest reception prop. He'd have one or two catches a game and would always be a 25, 30-yard catch down the field. He should be better. And Cam Akers, the guy at running back, he was banged up for most of last season after tearing his Achilles. He should be fully healthy. So all of a sudden, you've got a plethora of weapons for Matt Stafford with which to work. And honestly, Matt Stafford led the NFL in interceptions last year. First player to win a Super Bowl after leading the league in interceptions since Eli Manning did it. But I think now that the pressure is off, that was the one thing we always heard about Matthew Stafford, right? You can't win the big one. He sucks in big games. We saw that with the Lions. Well, now he has a Super Bowl ring. Those expectations, that monkey on his back is gone. If he loosens up a little bit with these weapons around him, he could have a monster season.
Oh, for sure. And looking at some of these season-long player props, I think Cooper Kupp is probably worth a sprinkle at some of these prices. I know he ran the table last season, but hoping he stays healthy for the entire year, think about the security blanket that he has been for Matt Stafford. He led the league in every category when it came to receptions, yardage, touchdowns, but the ones where he kind of ran away with it were the receptions and the yards. No one was really close when it came to total catches. Cooper Kupp had 145. The next closest was Justin Jefferson with 108. So I think Cooper Kupp is going to be the steadying force for Matt Stafford. He knows who won Super Bowl MVP. So I think it would be worth a play. Cooper Kupp, most receptions in the NFL this season at plus 550.
I like that. I think I'm going to go with Cooper Cup most touchdowns at plus 750. He is the favorite there, and that's no surprise. But you know that if Matthew Stafford is going to look for anyone in the red zone, it's going to be his guy, Cooper Cup. I guess there's always a possibility that Allen Robinson could take away some of those touchdowns. But at least for me, I think you're getting a little bit more value there on most touchdowns. And there is certainly more of a chemistry with Matt Stafford and Cooper Cup because of their previous seasons working together. What about this Rams defense? Number 17 overall last year, Chelsea. Aaron Donald, after he won the Super Bowl, said he might retire. He's only 30 years old. Well, I don't know if that was a ploy to get a new contract or not, but either way, he is going to get paid. Signs an extension, will now get paid $95 million over the next 3 years. And you know what? He's worth it. He is one of the best defenders, perhaps the best defensive lineman I have ever seen, a 3-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year, and he's only 30.
Yeah, but he was considering retirement. So maybe you consider motivation being a problem this year. I don't know. You would think that you saw his face during that Super Bowl parade. There's a reason that he came back. So maybe the motivation is there. But looking at this defense, it is so good because it is two-pronged. They have superstars that can shut you down on each level of this defense. In the secondary, it's Jalen Ramsey. And then on the pass rush, it's Aaron Donald. Of course, last year they had Von Miller as well, but that's the great equalizer in the postseason. When you're facing the best quarterbacks in the league, you need somebody who can get some kind of pressure and make them uncomfortable. We have seen what it does to even the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers has looked human. Tom Brady has looked human when they can get pressure on him, which it's usually never. Patrick Mahomes, also a good example of that. But looking at the division in which they play, I don't think that they're playing in a very offensively prolific division either, because they're playing against the Niners, which the wild card obviously is Trey Lance, what he can do with that offense. And then looking at the Seahawks and the Cardinals, who the Cardinals did not fare well against the Rams in the postseason. I bet that's a mental hurdle for Kyler Murray having to go against this Rams defense again, the one that single-handedly sent him into mental shambles during the offseason.
Yeah, they were just all over Kyler Murray. And I love that the Rams mitigated losing Von Miller because make no mistake, Von Miller was a huge reason why down the stretch the Rams were so good on defense. And we saw that during the Super Bowl. But now they bring in Bobby Wagner, who has long been one of the best linebackers in the NFL. He's a future Hall of Famer. He's had an incredible career. And Les Snead, the GM for the Rams, said, I could have drafted him back in 2012. I missed out on him. Now I have him now. So he's going to slip right in where Von Miller played on that defense at linebacker. They also have perhaps the best corner in the game in Jalen Ramsey. And they even brought back Troy Hill after he signed with the Browns. Troy Hill has to be bummed because he's traded to the Browns. For one season, he goes to Cleveland. He misses the Super Bowl, and then they bring him back. But he's a pretty good defender as well. I think you mentioned complacency, and it certainly could be an issue. But ultimately, if you look at this team as a whole, they get 16 of 22 starters back. So that's why they are one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl. However, I'm with you. The fact that you can get this team at plus 120 to win the division, I don't want to say it's a steal, but I'm surprised we're not looking at minus money here. And I can't believe the Cardinals are at 2-1 with Trey Lance. I am not putting my money on a very good Niners team led by a quarterback who has 71 total attempts in the NFL in his career. I think the Rams at plus 120 is great value.
Yeah, to put a little bow on this segment, love the Rams plus 120 to win the NFC West over the inexperience that we see with the Niners, despite a very good defense and a team around Trey Lance. Also like some Cooper Kupp props because think about it. Sometimes when we see these breakout seasons for guys in the NFL, you're like, oh, well, now that the defenses have heard of him and they have time to kind of study the game film, they'll know how to shut him down. Well, that wasn't the case last year. Every single week, we knew that the ball was going to Cooper Kupp, but yet nobody could stop him. Like, think about his yardage prop each and every week. It was in the hundreds, but still, he continued to get it. So I don't think that there's going to be any kind of regression for Cooper Kupp. Maybe he doesn't reach those lofty goals that he had last year, but still, I think it's going to be another great season for Cooper Kupp.
I do too. And this is my monthly reminder. Do not put any money on Cooper Cup to win MVP. He won the Triple Crown last year. That was not enough. So if that's all you can, that's the best you can do as a receiver, right, Chelsea? You dominate in every category. If that's not enough, you're never going to win it.
Yeah, it's the same with Derrick Henry. He rushed for 2,000 yards and still didn't even sniff MVP. So don't bet on a running back either.
Yeah, it sounds like a good bet in theory, and maybe you can make the argument they should have won at some point, but it just doesn't happen in the NFL. So save your money and look elsewhere, particularly if you want to put your cash on the defending champion LA Rams.